All right, we'll get started and people will probably trickle in and I've got this recording. So thanks for all of those that are here. We have Diana Johnson here today, and she is from Youth Services, and we've had a couple others from Youth Services. So we're really excited. They've been really, really informative and really great to meet people that are also internal to Salt Lake County. So that's amazing as well. So we're talking about staying connected with your teen, even if you don't have a teen. You can still benefit from this. I have a 9.5-year-old, but sometimes I'm like, I better get ready because I'm already like experiencing some things that age is kind of that, tricky age. So anyway, Diana, you can take it away. We're excited to have you. So thanks for being here. Oh, and I have you muted. So if you want to unmute.
There we go.
I guess,
Sorry.
yeah, that's all. Yeah, they're good.
All right, let me pull my screen up here. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see the screen? Yeah, okay, perfect. I just
Yes,
wanted
sorry.
to make
I know
sure.
I'm muted. Yeah, we can see it. Yep.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, as she said, I'm Diana Johnson and I work on the prevention team at Youth Services. And we've had a couple other people here talking about some of the classes that we teach. And I'm excited to talk about staying connected with your teen. I've been teaching that one since 2019. So it's been a little while, but staying connected with your teen is designed for ages 12 to 17, but normally I've taken them as young as 8 to 17 because parents want to be prepared before their teens grow up, which is fantastic. Makes me very happy. But we're going to talk a little bit about connection, development, involvement, boundaries, monitoring, things that families can use to help stay connected or reconnect with their teens, because a lot of time during the teenage years, teens pull away from the parents and the family, and they start to hang out with more and more peers. And so we're going to talk about that too. Okay. So there's 5 different sessions in staying connected, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of them, but give you kind of some tips and things that we do when we talk about these sessions. And so session number 1, let me start out by saying it's designed by Catalano and Hawkins. They did the Guiding Good Choices program, and they also did the social development strategy, which this is also based on, and I'll cover that in just a little bit. But there's 5 2-hour sessions. We can break it down into 10 1-hour sessions, but that usually drags on, and a lot of people prefer the 5. But we talk about different activities, and in session 1, we specifically focus on development, risk, and protective factors. So things that are going on in their lives and some things that are important to them and maybe not so important to them. Making sure my slides are advancing while I'm trying to talk. I apologize. Figures my internet slowing down. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk, and hopefully it will pull up soon. But we talk about development, and there's different stages of development in the teen years, and we delve into just the basic puberty and things like that. So we talk about physical development, how their body's rapidly changing, and they experience growth in their organs, in their limbs, things like that. They still need 8 to 10 hours of sleep, okay? And primary, secondary sex characteristics, they're starting to form romantic relationships. They may not last long, but they are starting to form those. And it's really crucial that parents have an honest and open discussion with their teens about the changes that are happening. We also talk about intellectual development, and they're developing more and more thinking skills. The prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain, is the last to develop. And we talk about that and how their understanding of things is based on emotions. And so when they're trying to understand emotions, they're using their own emotions, which can sometimes make it difficult. But the brain is changing, it's gaining and losing neurons every day. And it's quite a process. So they have that going on, plus the puberty, which makes it kind of a little tornado going on inside of your teen. The developing prefrontal cortex, which is this part here, that's the last to develop. And that's where the control, the decision making, the critical thinking, impulse control, all of those wonderful skills are not quite formed yet. And so we have to be careful with how we communicate with our teens, because sometimes they may not have understanding of what we're saying or what we're communicating. We also talk about emotional development. They have heightened emotions, in case you haven't seen that in your teen, and they're very sensitive to criticism. They take that really hard. And identity development, they're trying to figure out who they are, what they want to be in life. And they might try on different things, different hairstyles, different clothing, different music, even different jobs and friend groups. And that's completely normal as well. But they also start to want their privacy, and that can be concerning for some parents, just because, you know, their teen wants to be private more. They don't want you to see what's in their text messages, or, you know, close their door when they're talking to friends and things like that. And then social development, peer relationships are super important to teens. They want to, they turn away from parents a little bit and gravitate more towards their friends. And they still need you guys, but being at home isn't really first on their list. So peer approval is huge. Okay, they want to be approved by their peers, and if they're not, that can also be a little bit harmful for them. So we have to be careful with that. With adolescent development as well, we talk about how the circadian rhythm changes during adolescence. A lot of times parents will say, my teen doesn't want to go to bed until really late, and then I have a hard time waking them up in the morning. And that's because their circadian rhythm changes. It changes so that the melatonin isn't produced until about 9 o'clock at night, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it doesn't wear off until 8 or 9 the next morning. And because of this, schools throughout the United States are starting to start later for high schoolers, and they're finding that they're doing a lot better because they're actually awake when they go to school first thing in the morning. So something to think about as far as when your teen tells you they're not tired and tired. Okay. We also talk about risk factors, and risk factors play an important part in teen development, and understanding them can be crucial. And they exist in different areas of the teen's life. Okay, they exist within their friends, they exist within the family, they exist in the community, they can exist in school, they can exist, you know, just about everywhere. And so we want to become aware of those so that they can understand and learn how to deal with some of those risk factors. Examples: bullying, gang involvement, physical violence, mental health issues is even one, anxiety, you know, sadness, depression. Those are risk factors for teens. And so understanding the challenges that they face can be crucial. Okay. And if we recognize these risk factors and create supportive environments that support our teens and help them navigate the challenges that they're finding and build resilience in their lives, they're going to be a lot more successful. So in the family, as far as risk factors go, there can be a lack of clear expectations, what you expect from your teen, and low supervision, maybe not, you know, checking in with your teen, finding out where they're at, what they're doing, who they're with. Family conflict, okay? Family instability affects emotional well-being, and strained relationships can lead to emotional distress. School, okay? Academic stress, that can create overwhelming pressure on them to succeed. And oftentimes they may have demanding schedules, you know, participating in extracurricular activities, home activities, school activities, and things like that. peer pressure, excuse me, that can lead to poor choices if they're hanging around the wrong peers. But I'm always quick to tell parents that even good friends can make a bad decision. Okay, it's what we learn from it and recover from that's important. And substance use and abuse. Okay, any use of substances under the age, well, anything that's illegal isn't great for teens, but it can affect their brain development and affect them later in life, even including becoming addicted to some of those substances. And so we want to try and steer clear of those. And I'm always telling parents that you need to be informed of what's going on and what's happening around you. Um, Risks are out there, and becoming knowledgeable about them is going to make it easier for you to talk to your teen about them. On the opposite side of risk factors, we have protective factors. And they allow teens to thrive despite those external risk factors that we talked about. And if they have strong support networks, that's going to help them navigate difficulties effectively. Okay. And it's also going to empower them to reach their full potential, which is what we want. We want them to have academic success, good grades. Okay. That's going to enhance their self esteem as well as their future opportunities. Strong family support is crucial. Family communication, warm, supportive parent relationships are especially important. Okay. Consistent rules and guidelines, and then monitoring them without invading too much of their privacy. Also, mental health, making sure they have access to mental health resources and supports if needed. Okay. We also talk about community involvement and how important it is. Engaging in the community helps them build social connections as well as skills. It's going to help them now, but also when they're an adult. And applications now for college, rental properties, things like that, or even asking for volunteer experience. And so if they can fill that out, that's going to benefit them. Okay. And again, those positive peer friendships that we want them to have, they promote emotional well-being. Okay. And they're going to help keep your kids out of trouble because your kids aren't going to want to violate those standards that those good friends have. Okay. So we want to make sure we understand the protective factors, and the more protective factors that your teen or kids have, the better off they're going to be. Okay. So in session number 2, we talk about family meetings, decision making, and parenting responses. And we want them to learn how to conduct family meetings and what a benefit they are. And there are a lot of benefits to having family meetings. And I know I joke with my participants that when I hear the word meeting, I kind of cringe, but sometimes that's the case for people. And so if you want to call it something else, you can. I've looked up in the thesaurus that there are other words for meeting, summit, um, topic. What did they say? I had a family that the family was really involved in sports, and so they named theirs the Hanson Family Huddle, which I thought was really interesting and engaging. But you can make your family meetings interesting so that your teens want to participate. Center them around a favorite movie or a favorite video game or a favorite character, Harry Potter, have everything related to Harry Potter. Let them even dress up if that's something that will get them to come to the family meetings. You can get them involved. And once they're involved, it's going to help them with their communication skills. It's going to help them with patience. It's going to help them with navigating decision making. And that's extremely important as well. We want to give them every opportunity we can, and family meetings are a great way to do that. And also, when they participate in these, they get a chance, hopefully, to lead a family meeting, and they'll learn, to guide meetings and to handle conversations. Maybe some that might even be a little more difficult, if somebody disagrees with them. So it's fun to watch and fun to hear from parents about how their family meetings go. And we encourage anything. When I meet with my participants, I say, you can tell me the good, the bad, the ugly, anything you want to talk about as far as family meetings go. But each of the skills that are talked about here, they support teens' healthy development, and they also reduce risk taking in adolescence, which is huge. We want to reduce the risks that our teens talk about. Okay. So again, how to begin, continue, and have them. They build protective factors. Okay. And regular family meetings, open communication channels. If you haven't done them before, or you're not regular about doing them, sometimes it might be tricky at first. But if you try something and it doesn't work, don't give up, because your teens and kids will see that as something that might not be important to you. But if it is important, they'll see you doing it over and over again, and hopefully the resistance will lessen over time. But those regular family meetings, it helps teens and children feel a sense of belonging and feel like they're important, that they're a valued member of the family. They learn that the family's interdependent. Okay, you guys depend on each other. And it gives teens a voice as well as other children in the family. And you can strengthen family teamwork as well. And that's another thing, when the family can work together to solve issues. Okay. Some really quick tips for family meetings: try and keep them short. You don't want them to last really long. Have a routine. Okay. Maybe start out with an introduction, discuss the issues, and then have a closing, talk about or do something fun, and then have a treat. Food always brings kids. Kids love food. And so you can always get people to attend for that reason alone. And then always focus on solutions. Okay.
Diana, when do
Yes,
you recommend, like what age should you start family meetings?
the younger you start, the better off you're going to be,
Yeah,
because it's
that
going
makes
to,
sense.
yeah, it's going to make
Mhm.
them ease into the transition a lot easier than if you were to start later in life. But I always tell my participants that it's never too late to start. Okay. The resistance is going to be there,
Yeah.
just because teens are famous for resistance and eye rolls. And so don't give up on them. Keep trying, because they'll see that it's important to you. What kind of topics do you talk about at a family meeting? There are a lot of different things that we recommend they talk about. You can talk about expectations, okay, chores. Um, you can talk about family problems, things that are going on in the family, maybe social situations that are happening outside in the world. Okay, different opportunities for kids to answer to different things or talk about different things. It's going to benefit their brain growth and development and help them with those communication skills that they're trying to develop. But you can talk about, coming home late. You can talk about refusal skills, which we'll get to in a little bit. You can talk about alcohol and drugs. You can talk about all of these different things that are going on. Whatever you think fits your family the best. Another thing that I suggest to my participants is that teens are teens usually don't like to talk face to face. They prefer side by side or in the back seat or behind you. And so, if that's the case, um, I suggest that they put a piece of paper or have things to talk about stuck to the fridge or on a whiteboard, where teens and kids, if they have things they want to discuss, they can write those topics down. And then you, as parents, participants, caregivers, can address those things in upcoming family meetings. That way, their voice is getting heard, but they don't feel quite as intimidated as talking to you face to face. Face to face, excuse me. Does that make sense? Hopefully it did. Perfect. All right. Okay. Let's move on to parenting responses. We talk about different parenting responses as well, how caregivers and parents respond to different types of situations. And everybody responds differently. Nobody's going to do it the same. But we talk about 4 different types in this program. We talk about the teddy bear, who's very lovable, huggy, cuddly, wants to make everything all better. And then we talk about the tiger. That's a person or a parent who is strong and motivated, and they want to stop everything right now if it's happening. You know, if their child's getting picked on, they want to call the parents, or they want to go talk to the child, or, you know, a strong emotional parent. Okay. And then we talk about the turtle response, and how parents sometimes, if you're feeling angry or overwhelmed, or you're having a bad day yourself, and you come home and all of a sudden all your kids are coming up wanting to talk, and you say, hey, just a minute, I need a few minutes to decompress, and then I'll come back and we can have that conversation. And so withdrawing yourself for a little while is not a bad thing. Just make sure you tell your teens, you know, why you're doing it, or your kids, and they'll understand completely, hopefully. And I always suggest as well that you give them a time frame. You know, say, hey, we can talk about this in a half an hour. Is that okay? And sometimes when you give them that definitive time, that makes it easier for them to accept that you don't want to talk right now, which is crucial. Okay. The other one we talk about is the owl, and that's wise parenting advice. They want to negotiate, they want to try things out, they want to make things work for everybody involved. Okay, so those are the different types that we address, and we talk more about that in depth in the sessions. But parenting responses are crucial because teens, as I mentioned, are very sensitive to criticism, but they're also highly sensitive to tone and emotions, as well as perceived criticism. So we have to be careful. And when we provide helpful responses for parents, that's going to teach the children emotional regulation, because parents can be emotionally regulated as well. And if you have consistent expectations, that's going to be a good thing as well. Okay. When you have connection between you and your teen, that communication is going to build resilience, and it's going to lower the risk for depression and anxiety as well. And that can be crucial, okay, especially during this time frame. And if you explain the why behind your expectations, teens are a lot more likely to accept them and understand them. I always wanted to know the why, even when I started jobs and working. If my boss told me something, I would say, hey, do you mind explaining to me why? And 99% of the time they would. And that just helped me understand what was going on and the reasons behind it. You know, make sure you validate their feelings and ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are the kind that you're not going to get a yes, no, fine, okay answer, which are typical teen responses. Okay. Make sure you're using a calm voice and that your body language is, you know, saying, I'm here to talk. Okay. And then always focus on listening and not on fixing the current situation. And I know that can be hard, but make sure you do that. And with teens and kids, choices are always a better idea. Instead of saying, do your chores now, you can say, do you want to do your chores before dinner or after dinner? And let them pick, and then that way they feel like they have some sort of voice in what's happening in their lives, and that makes them feel extremely important. Okay. You obviously don't want to yell, you don't want to shame, sarcasm, give long lectures, you don't want to interrupt them. Okay. I tell people that I had to let my daughter go around the block 6 or 7 times before she finally got to the destination, but she eventually got there. And I know that can be frustrating for us as caregivers and parents sometimes. And don't bring up past things, old mistakes, things that they did wrong in the past. That's never going to be good for communication. Okay. I haven't seen any questions pop up, so I'm just going to keep going. Okay. So we also talk about decision making. encouraging honest conversations with your teen. And that really matters because the teen brain is practicing critical thinking, logical thinking, decision making skills. Okay. And they're looking for independence, but they want it without judgment. And collaborative decisions with the family helps your teen strengthen those skills in a safe environment. Okay. Maybe where they're not going to be made fun of. And so it's better to have them practice at home. And research consistently shows that adolescents comply more with rules when they believe the process is fair and that their opinions are heard, right? We want to, decision making also encourages problem solving skills. And I tell parents and caregivers that the one thing that I wish every child had to learn is problem solving skills and anger management, just because I think those are two very valuable skills. But talking through options and consequences teaches critical thinking, and it helps them learn from their mistakes rather than the fear of being punished. Okay? Decision making also can reduce conflict. And when you shift from controlling their behavior to guiding or influencing it, they're going to feel more respected and less pressure to push back on what you have said. Okay? All right. I feel like I've talked a lot and nobody's said anything. So, okay. Also, when they participate in decision making, they build confidence and autonomy. And that's also some skills that they're going to need when they leave the house. We, in the sessions, we address 4 different types of decision making. We talk about caregiver alone, and we talk about caregiver with family input. We talk about, excuse me, my goodness, I lost my train of thought. We talk about democratic, and we also talk about unanimous decision making, the pros and cons of each. Okay. All right. Like it doesn't want to change. Okay. So active listening, communication, and anger is session 3. We specifically focus on communication in this session. And it's one of my favorite sessions to teach. But we want them to be able to talk to you no matter what the situation is. And the earlier those conversations can start, the better it's going to be for them as well as you. Okay. Communication is one of the strongest protective factors during adolescence. And when you communicate effectively with your teen, it strengthens trust. And it's also going to reduce risk taking, and it's going to improve their emotional well-being. It's a key part of emotional regulation, which teens may be struggling with right now. They might be happy one minute and mad the next. And we talk about communication boulders, things that may hamper effective communication. Things such as yelling, ordering, making a behavior into a character trait. You're always late. You never make your bed. We also talk about praising with criticism. You did a great job cleaning the kitchen, but, or nice job making your bed. Next time, could you? Okay. We talk about those different types of communication boulders. And when a parent and a teen has great connection or have a great connection, it's going to reduce their risk of participating in risky behaviors. Jennifer.
Yeah, so I just have a question, and maybe if this is something that needs to wait for this next session, fantastic. But that I'm a single mom, and that is absolutely one of the hardest things I find myself in is giving that compliment, but also wanting to lead them to show them how to maybe do better or how to maybe think through things a little bit differently. Because I don't want to destroy the compliment within, but at the same point, I'm the only one. Well, I'm not the only one, but I'm the primary person who's teaching these kids. And so if I see an opportunity, especially within the home, I want to be able to express that to them, but from a loving point and not from a I'm only focusing on the negative or what
Right.
could be better sort of thing. And so it's a it's a juggle that I see myself in often because I want to build those, they're boys. And so I
Yeah,
really especially want to build their independence so much more so with whatever I can do.
absolutely.
I just never know how to balance it.
No, you're not the only one, Jennifer. I promise. That a lot of parents ask this. They're like, "Well, I do this all the time," and I'm like, "I did that all the time too." But what I suggest to participants or parents is that you separate the two. And I know it's hard, but give them the praise first, okay? And then when you have correction or things that need to be done, the best thing to do with teens, because remember, they're struggling with criticism right now, is
Yeah.
maybe do a family meeting on chores and how to actively do them correctly.
That's a good thought. Yeah.
And you could even do a checklist, like in the bathroom, you have a checklist of this is what needs to be done. And they can check off everything as they go through it. And I understand sometimes that your definition of clean the toilet might not be the same as their definition of clean the toilet. And so you would have to clearly explain what you mean by clean the toilet. Scrub
Sure.
inside the toilet, wipe it down. And it can seem frustrating and bothersome at times, but once they get into that practice, it's a lot easier for them. And then you can like lessen the steps and just take off the, description and just put the brief description.
So true. Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, it's a great thing with chores, and I know it can be super hard when you're trying to separate the two. John Gottman, famous researcher, he says that for every one negative thing you say, you have to say 5 positive things. And so the 5-to-1 magic ratio. And I I'm quick to ask my participants, I said, how many of you remember things that your parents said to you or things that kids at school said to you when you were younger or a teenager? It might not have been positive, might have been negative. And almost everyone in my sessions raises their hand. And I said, okay, that's why it's important for us to try to not focus on the negative, reinforce the positive. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. Okay. We want them to be able to explore their thoughts, and they need reassurance from us as caring adults. Okay. And they also need a safe place to talk through things. And hopefully that can be us. Okay. So it's essential, you guys, communication. We all know it. But these skills are going to transfer outside of the house and into their adult lives. Teens talk more when parents stay calm and you use a non judgmental tone. That helps too. You can help them manage their emotions. You can help them strengthen their identity development, figure out who they are and what they want to be. It helps build trust and connection, reduces those risky behaviors, as I've mentioned. And hopefully it maintains your parental influence. Okay. You want to be able to influence their lives. That's super important. And if they don't want to talk at the moment, leave the space open so they can come and talk to you at a different time. So you don't want to lecture, you don't want to interrupt them, you don't want to judge them, and try not to say, you should clean your room, or you didn't do this, or you didn't make your bed. Those statements make them feel defensive, and they're more likely to not do what you want them to do. And so we suggest using I statements. I feel frustrated that you didn't clean your room because I like my house to be clean. And sometimes these work wonders with teens and parents. Other times it may not, but try it a few times and see what happens. Okay. Youth are going to share more with you when you're listening without immediately correcting them. Okay. Lets them know that you're thinking about things. And that's important. And short positive interactions mean more than long serious talks, because after a while their brain tunes out. And so little talks, are great, and make them consistent. and focus on warmth, your eye contact, your body language, agreeing, disagreeing after the fact, okay? Put your electronics away. And I know that's hard. TVs, phones, whatever you're on, put them away, put them down, and pay attention to your teen. Just making that transition can be huge for teens because it lets them know that they are more important than whatever they were looking at on their phone. And tell them you love them. Show them you love them every single day. Even if they, ew, I'm too cool for that, or I'm too old for that. Don't do that. Okay. They still want and need that. And that's important. There are different ways to communicate with teens. Leave notes on the bathroom mirror in dry erase marker. Write little post-it notes, stick them in their room, put them in a lunch sack, send them an email, send them a letter in the mail. Most teens don't get that. So send them a letter in the mail about why they're important to you, how they got their name. Different tips like that can go a long way with communication. There's also books out now where you can pass it back and forth between a parent and a teen, and it asks questions. And they've worked really well for some of my participants who maybe had a hard time communicating with their teens. And so there are different strategies out there. Okay, the one everybody loves, active listening. It's one of the most powerful tools you're ever going to have. Okay, it's going to strengthen that connection. It's going to reduce conflict, and it's going to help your teen feel valued and understood. And that's crucial, okay, because they need that the most. They need to feel heard and respected. It also helps them manage big emotions. Teens have big emotions, and that's normal for this developmental period, okay? But also it can reduce arguments and power struggles. So maybe you don't get to anger in the first place, okay? Pay attention, put things away, eye contact, ask questions, reflect back what you've heard, okay? And make sure you're hearing things correctly. That lets them know you're interested, and it also gives them a chance to correct you if what you thought you heard was wrong. Okay? And when teens feel heard, they're more open to limits, rules and guidance, consequences, and also problem solving. They just want their voice to be heard. Validation lowers emotional intensity and increases cooperation. So validate how they're feeling. Okay, maybe they come home with a thought that you don't agree with or something. Instead of saying, no, that's wrong, just say, oh, I see, I understand. Can you explain more about that, or tell me more about that? And let them explain to you their thinking and their processes behind why they're believing what they're believing. It's a great way to get them to communicate more. We also talk about anger because everybody loves anger. It's not bad. It's a normal human emotion. During the teen years, they need to learn to understand and express their anger so that they can have healthy relationships. Teens' brains feel emotions more intensely. Anger can mask other emotions, and anger prohibits them from effectively communicating, just like it prevents you from effectively communicating. Okay, so we want to make sure that we teach them how to diffuse their anger and use it constructively, because it can be used constructively. Keep that in mind. I know it's hard when it comes to them not doing what they were supposed to do, but anger is a good thing to have them talk about. We also talk about a method to distribute the anger or to get rid of the anger. We call it the STAR method. I'll go into more of that in the sessions, but it's just a 5-step process of reducing anger so that it doesn't affect your relationships and make them more complicated. Okay. Okay, session 4, we're just about done. So involvement and consequences. Session 4 is another one of my favorites, where we talk to parents about getting their teen involved, different places. And then at the end of the lesson, we also talk about consequences for behavior, things that they should expect when they do a particular behavior. So mentors and role models are really important to teens. There we go. They provide guidance, they listen, they offer perspective. And if you're modeling good behavior, or they're following somebody that's modeling good behavior, hopefully they'll adopt that good behavior as well. So that's why we want them to have that good behavior, okay? Or want them to follow up with mentors and role models. Be a role model for your teens, okay? Another thing, as far as involvement, try and get them involved in different areas. We talk about different areas of involvement, those being maintenance, governance, finance, health, and community. And we talk about different ways that your teen can be involved in those different areas. I switched back and forth, I apologize. But maintenance refers to chores and things that keep the family going. And then governance is rules, helping them make rules and decisions that might affect other family members. Deciding on a curfew for a younger sibling. Babysitting is a governance topic. Health, just helping oversee the family's health, getting them active, getting them involved in things. Finance, where you talk to parents about letting your kids become more involved in financial decisions. Give them a budget, teach them how to budget. Let them buy the meals or buy the ingredients for a meal, and follow up with them to see if they stayed within the budget. Okay. Saving, also, credit card offers that might be coming in if they're turning 18, what to look for. Okay. Consequences. Okay, so they have to be clear and they have to be consistent. And I forgot to change that. That's lovely. I put finding supportive environments. So supposed to be positive and negative consequences. Negative, is for the behaviors that maybe they didn't do correctly, and positive for the ones that they do. And you should reinforce your teen for those good behaviors. If you reinforce them for those behaviors, they're going to be more likely to do them again. So give them the kudos, because research has shown that positive consequences have more of an impact than negative consequences do. So you want to make sure they understand that. And when they have those clear and consistent consequences, they're going to be better able to understand the link between their actions and the outcomes. And they're more likely to accept and learn from the consequences when they are perceived as reasonable and fair and logically connected to the behavior. Okay. So for example, if they have too much screen time and you ground them, that's not really associated with too much screen time. But if you take their phone away for a period of time, that's related to screen time. Okay. We talk about logical, natural, and planned consequences as well. So different types of consequences. Okay. Does not like to switch on me. Okay. I mentioned involvement previously, but the slide wasn't there. It was in the wrong place. I apologize. But when they feel involved and connected to their families, the likelihood of them participating in risky behaviors is reduced greatly. And when they have those meaningful roles in the family, in the school, in the community, they're going to develop stronger decision-making skills and having internal responsibility, have somebody to account to, okay? Have somebody to report to. And they're more motivated to follow through with family expectations if they've had a role in the process, as I've said, okay? Let them pick their consequences. If you do that, almost 90% of the time, they will pick things that are more drastic than you would pick, okay? Teens need to be involved in daily chores, and they need to be involved in the community. It builds a sense of belonging and purpose. It increases empathy and understanding of others. It helps them discover their interests, talents, and career paths. And financial decisions, like I mentioned, builds money management confidence early. And that's what we want in our teens. Someone told me, I had a translator in a past class just recently, and she had just graduated from high school, and she said that they do teach a financial class in the Granite School District, she said, but what I talk about is not anything they talk about in school. And so I thought that was rather interesting that some of the main topics that we talk about, they don't discuss in the schools. So, okay. I apologize, my slides were messed up there, guys. All right, session number 5 is the final session. And this is where we talk about social supports, peer influences, and refusal skills, and how important those pro-social peers are. Refusal skills are critical. There's peer pressure out there, online, in person, it's everywhere. Friends and classmates and even communities influence your teen's choices, okay? And strong refusal skills are going to help them be more confident to say no without losing their social standing with their friends, which is a lot of times what they're concerned about. They don't want to be made fun of or, feel different than their friends do. And refusal skills also helps them avoid risky behaviors. It builds confidence and assertiveness in them. And they usually give them prepared scripts. So something that they can, rehearse and say over so that when the time comes, they do know how to say no when a risky decision presents itself. Oh my goodness, I apologize. But also peer influences, social supports can be families, coaches, friends, extended family members, religious entities. There are so many different social supports available to teens, and we talk about these and how they might influence your teen and their behaviors. And it's crucial that they understand that they have these resources available, because sometimes I think teens don't understand that they have all of these things available to them. And it might be good, to remind them. We also talk about supervision without invading their privacy. Create that supportive network, okay? Know who, what, where, when, and how. And try not to control, okay? Encourage safe peers and safe website and positive adult mentors. And then that strong social support, you guys, is going to make them feel safe and valued. And that's what we want. Supervision is different for everybody. We talk about different ways to supervise and how to do it without making them feel like you're intruding on their independence or their privacy. And yeah, supervision is a fun one to talk with parents about. Okay, we also talk a little bit about boundaries when we're talking about supervision and monitoring. It's kind of all three rolled up into one, and we touch a little bit on each one. And we reiterate that it's important for parents to have values and standards in place and to make sure that your teen and children are aware of those values and standards, and they know why you have those values and standards. It makes a difference to them, and it's going to help them when they go to use those refusal skills. Okay. Okay. So all of the material is from the Social Development Strategy by Catalano and Hawkins. And they say that you need to provide opportunities to kids and teens. Give them things to do. Give them positions in the household, okay? And then give them skills that they're going to need, whether it's financial, custodial, outside lawn care. I mean, different types of skills that they're going to need when they leave the house. Give them those skills. And then recognition, make sure you recognize them for the things that they do that are good, because they're going to be more likely to do those positive things over and over And that's exactly what you want as caregivers. You want them to do those positive things and hopefully avoid all the negative ones. Yeah, social development strategy, opportunities, skills, and recognition. Super important. And I think I have finished.
Well, thank you so much. I feel very motivated to start family meetings. It's been one of those things that it's like I have said I want to do them and um haven't. But like now this is my push to do it. And like I say, my son's 9, so can get started. Still probably will have some pushback even now. So but yeah, so I know I asked you how often you're teaching these classes, but when is your next? Do you have any coming up soon?
I'm supposed to have an online one possibly starting tonight, maybe.
Oh,
And
there you
we
go.
had
Yeah.
one that was supposed to be in person, but it ended up not working out. And so I thought I'd throw an online one up there just to see if there was anybody that was interested. But if not, it might not be until the first of the year
Next
once the
year. Yeah.
holidays are past. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer, go ahead.
Hey, sorry, I know I popped in here late, so I apologize if I missed from the get-go. What is the best means to sign up for any of your sessions?
I'll just put my email in the chat and you can just reach out to me and I can get you registered.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd love to learn of any dates and stuff like that. This is right at my alley.
Yep, I can send you all the links you could ever want.
You're so fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem
Amazing.
at
Yes.
all.
And we're always happy to promote those through employee wellness.
Yes.
So feel free to continue the communication and we'll get those out there too. So,
Yes.
well, thank
Perfect.
you so much, Diana. Thanks for
Thank
those
you.
that attended, and I'll be posting this on our YouTube, so you'll have more people watching it as well. So, thanks
Perfect.
and have a great day, everybody.
Thank
Okay, talk
you.
to you soon. Bye.
Bye.